Okay, so yes, good morning to all. Welcome to the Saturday's class. This is the last class that we have in this week, and I think you are excited to finish this class, isn't it? So I think you should now very well about the plant kingdom. That's why I'm taking too much time to conclude this chapter. So I think you have read all the past parts that we have already finished, like gymnosperms, angiosperms, pteridophytes, and all those things. So today we are going to say about angiosperms. So I think we have already tell about angiosperms and plant life cycle. So I think the last section I didn't mention about the life cycle, or already told about it and finished the class. So in this revision section we will tell about the plant life cycles picture, and after all we will tell about the plant life cycle. Okay, first we will say about the angiosperms and we will read about it and we will get into the plant life cycle. Okay, so today we are getting into the angiosperms. And I think you are remembering what is angiosperms means. Sorry. Yes. Okay, so angiosperms. What is angiosperms? So when we are saying about angiosperms, it is very relatable to the gymnosperms. Okay, so what we all have said about gymnosperms, are you remembering all those things? We have said about the microsporangium and microsporophylls, and we have called it as microsporangiate, and it is called as the male strobili. And after that we have said that megasporophylls and megasporangium, and we called it as megasporangiate and known as the female strobili. And we say that in some organisms we can see it is in both in same plant, like male and female strobili can see in same tree itself. So it is known as the it is like pinus, like trees will see like that, and all things we like that. So it is very relatable to the gymnosperms. But it is very different from gymnosperms. So in angiosperms we want to say that the ovules, the gymnosperms where the ovules are napped. Okay, so in case of in the angiosperms or flowering plants, it is known as that plant that we see flowering is known as the angiosperms. So in the case of angiosperms, the pollen grains and ovules are developed in specialized structures. Okay, the pollen grains and ovules are developed in specialized structures, which is we always call as flowers. Okay, we will always call as flowers. Okay, we will always call it as flowers. So in angiosperms, what is the specialty? The seeds are enclosed in fruits. Okay, that is the main specialty of angiosperms. The seeds are enclosed in fruits. So the angiosperms are an exceptionally large group of plants occurring in wide range of habitats. Okay, so they will be ranged in size from the smallest wolfia to tall trees of eucalyptus about over 100 meters above. So they provide us with food, fodder, fuel, medicines, and several other commercially important products. So they are divided into two classes. When we are saying about that, it is important. When we are saying about the differentiation of angiosperms, it is very important to study about these two, that is dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Okay, dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Okay, dicotyledons and monocotyledons. So, and next we want to know about what is dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Yes, what is dicotyledons means? The dicotyledons are characterized by seed having two cotyledons. Okay, seeds having two cotyledons and reticulate venations in leaves. Okay, the dicotyledons are characterized by seeds having two cotyledons and reticulate venations in leaves and tetramerous or pentamerous flowers. Okay, so having 4 or 5 leaves, the tetramerous or pentamerous flowers having 4 or 5 members in each flower walls. Okay, so when we are saying about the monocotyledons, we want to say that monocotyledons means the character by single cotyledons, means seeds. Okay, single cotyledon seeds will be present. So parallel venation in the leaves and trimerous flowers having in this. Trimerous flowers means 3 members in each flower buds. Okay, so when we are saying about that differentiation about the dicotyledons and monocotyledons should know. Okay, so what we all have said about that, the dicotyledons are characterized by seeds having 2 cotyledons and will have reticulate venations leaves and tetramerous or pentamerous flowers having 4 or 5 members of the each flower buds. And when we get about the monocotyledons, what we have said, monocotyledons on the other hand are characterized by single cotyledon seeds which will parallel venations in the leaves. It means I have trimerous flowers which means 3 members in each flower buds. And when we are getting into the sex organs of these angiosperms, we want to say that the male sex organ in a flower is stamen. Okay, so the male sex organ in a flower is called as the stamen. So when we are saying about that, each stamen consists of a slender filament with an anther. Okay, slender filament with an anther at the tip. So within the anthers, the pollen mother cell will be divided by meiosis to produce microspores which matures into pollen grains. Okay, and after that, the female sex organ in a flower is the pistil, and the pistil consists of a swollen ovary at its base, a long slender style and stigma. So inside the ovary, ovules are present. That is the specialty of angiosperms. Inside the ovary, ovules are present. So generally, each ovule has what? Has a megaspore mother cell. So we have to know about the megaspore mother cell in case of angiosperms. Megaspore mother cell, which will undergo what? Meiosis to form haploid megaspores. Here this megaspore mother cell will undergo meiosis to form haploid megaspores. Okay, that is happening here. So what is the next step? So 3 of them degenerate and 1 divided to form the embryo sac, and each embryo sac has a 3-celled egg apparatus. It has a 3-celled egg apparatus. 3-celled egg apparatus. And when we are saying about that, 1 egg cell have 2 synergids. Okay, 1 egg cell have 2 synergids. These are the specialty of angiosperms only. So 1 egg contains 2 synergids and what all? 3 antipodals, 3 antipodals and 2 polar nuclei. Okay, 2 polar nuclei. Okay, so these are the specialty. Okay, so I think you have get it. So you read it and after we get into the remaining part of the angiosperms. Okay. Okay, so I think you have read it out, and after that we have said that in the last section we have said that one egg cell which contains two synergids, three antipodals and two polar nuclei each, isn't it? So after all that, what will happen? The polar nuclei eventually fuse to produce diploid secondary nucleus. Diploid secondary nucleus. Okay, what will happen? It will eventually produce a diploid secondary nucleus, and the pollen grain, okay, it will, after the pollen grain, after dispersal will from the anthers, are carried by wind or various other agencies. Okay, it is carried by wind or various other agencies to the stigma of the pistil. Okay, so this process is known as the pollination. This process is known as the pollination. Okay, so what will happen? The polar nuclei eventually fuse to produce a diploid secondary nucleus, and the pollen grain after dispersal from the anthers are carried by wind or various other agencies to the stigma of a pistil. Okay, so this is termed as a pollination. So the pollen grains germinate on the stigma, and what will happen? And the resulting pollen tubes grow through the tissues of stigma and style and reach the ovule. So the pollen tubes, when they enter the embryo sac, what will happen? Where two male gametes are discharged, and one of the male gametes fuses with the egg cell, that is known as the synchrony, to form a zygote. So the synchrony is also taking place. Synchrony is taking place to form a zygote. So the other male gamete fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus to produce the triploid primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, so the other male gametes fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus to form what? Triploid primary endosperm nucleus. Primary endosperm nucleus. That is known as PET. So because of the occurrence of two fusions, synchrony and triple fusion, the event is termed as double fertilization. This is termed as double fertilization. So an event unique to angiosperms. So the zygote develops into an embryo, and the pen develops into endosperm, which provides nourishment to developing embryo. So the synergids and antipodals degenerate after fertilization. So during these events, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovules develop into the fruit. Okay, and when we are getting to the life's process, we can see the pictures that we have in your textbook. Isn't it? First they are showing about in your textbook it is showing that there is the style, stigma and ovaries present. It will come in contact with anther. That is firstly showing. So first it is there is anther, and in the anther there is a filament, and after that it will get into the microsporangium. Okay, it will get into the microsporangium. And after that, the microsporangium will become microspores. Okay, and this microspore is being the pollen grain. Okay, and from that, what will happen? It will get into the male gametophyte gametes and the egg. Okay, male gametophyte gametes and the egg. Okay, so it is known as the megaspore mother cell. It will get into the megaspore mother cell. There is megasporangium, that is means ovule will be there and will be style is present. Okay, it will be contact with the anthers, and after that, when we are saying about that is the gametophytic generation, which will be n number of cells will be present, n number of chromosomes, I think. And so after that, what will happen? From the egg, it will get into the form of zygote. Okay, the egg will convert into the form of zygote, and after that, it will to the embryo. And from the embryo, it is getting into the sporophyte. And from the sporophyte, there will be style, ovary, stigma, and it will get into contact with the anther. That is the sporophytic generation. It will be the 2n chromosomes present. Okay, so that is the life cycle of an angiosperm. That can be easily using a diagram, we can say. So if you are not well known to write anything about angiosperm, you can simply draw this life cycle of an angiosperm. That can be used further for your examination. Okay. So that's about the life cycle of angiosperm. Next, we will get study about the plant cycle. Before that, you should read that, and I will give you 5 minutes for that. Okay. Okay, next is plant life cycles and alteration of generation. Okay, plant life cycle and alteration of generation. So when we are saying about the plant life cycles and alteration of generation, we want to say that so in plants both haploid and diploid cells can divide by mitosis. So this ability leads to the formation of different plant bodies, that is haploid and diploid. Okay, so the plant body produces gametes by mitosis, and the plant body represents a gametophyte following fertilization. The zygote also divides by mitosis to produce a diploid sporophytic plant body. So the haploid spores are produced by this plant by meiosis, that we know. So these in turn divide by during this process, so the life cycle of sexually reproducing plant. So there is an alteration of generations between gamete producing haploid gametophyte and a spore producing diploid sporophyte. Okay, so we can discuss about that is here discussing about the different plant groups as well as individuals representing them or different the following patterns. Okay, so when we are saying about that, first we are saying about the sporophytic generation, isn't it? Just we are saying about the sporophytic generation. Okay, so first then when they are saying about the sporophytic generation, they are saying that it is represented only by the one cell zygote. One cell zygote. Okay, it is known as the one cell zygote. Okay, so there are no free living sporophytes. Okay, no free living sporophytes. That is a specialty. No free living sporophytes. So meiosis in the zygote results the formation of haploid spores. In this case, meiosis is the main reason for the zygote to result in the formation of haploid spores. So the haploid spores are dominant in this case. Okay, and the haploid spores, the haploid will divide mutually and form the gametophyte. Okay, so the gametophyte, and the dominant photosynthetic phase in such plants is the free living gametophyte. Okay, what is the dominant phase? It is the photosynthetic phase in such plants is the free living gametophyte. Okay, free living gametophyte. Free living gametophyte. Okay, so we want to say that this kind of life cycle is termed as haplodic. Okay, that is known as the haplodic. And which all are the organisms which show the haplodic relationships or haplodic type of generations? That is Volvox, Spirogyra, and some species of Chlamydomonas. Okay, Volvox, Spirogyra, and some species of Chlamydomonas. Okay, so that is one. When we are getting into the next one, that is the diploid sporophyte is the dominant one. So when we are saying about that, there will be photosynthetic independent phase of the plant. Okay, there will be photosynthetic independent phase of the plant. Some species of Chlamydomonas will serve the haplodic. And so when we go to the extreme level, we also say that it is a type where the diploid sporophyte is a dominant. Okay, means photosynthetic independent phase of the plant. So the gametophytic haploid, the gametophytic phase is represented by single to few cell haploid gametophytes. So this kind of life cycle is known as diplontic. What? Diplontic. Okay, so an alga, fuca species represents this pattern. So in addition, all seed-bearing plants like gymnosperms and angiosperms follow this pattern with some variations, wherein the gametophyte phase is few to multi-celled. Okay, So next when we are seeing about the bryophytes and pteridophytes, we want to say that in case of bryophytes and pteridophytes, interestingly it will exhibit an intermediate condition of this diplontic and haplontic condition, that is haplodiplontic. Okay, in case of pteridophytes and bryophytes. Haplodiplontic. So the both phases are multicellular, and I think they will differ in their dominant phases. Okay, that is a special. So bryophytes and pteridophytes interestingly exhibit an intermediate condition that is known as a haplodiplontic. So next when we are seeing about that, a dominant independent photosynthetic, okay, a dominant independent photosynthetic thalloid or erect phase is represented by a haploid gametophyte. Okay, a dominant independent photosynthetic thalloid or erect phase is represented by a haploid gametophyte, and it alternates. Okay, with short-lived multicellular sporophyte, totally or partially depend on gametophyte for its anchorage and nutrition. So all bryophytes will represent this pattern. So the diploid sporophyte is represented by dominant independent photosynthetic vascular plant body. Okay, represented by dominant independent photosynthetic vascular plant body. So it alternates with multicellular saprophytic or autotrophic, which means independent but short-lived haploid gametophyte. Such as, what we can say that this pattern is known as haplodiplontic life cycle, or pteridophytes exhibit this pattern, which we see in the figure. This is the third picture. So that interestingly, with most algal genera are haplontic, and some of them such as Ectocarpus, Polysiphonia, kelps and are haplodiplontic, and fucus and alga is diplontic. Okay, so these all are about the plant life cycle. Okay, this is all about the plant life cycle and the alteration of generations. Okay, so I think you have understood. So I think you should study well, and after that we will get into the new chapter, that is this is plant kingdom, isn't it? We will get to the animal kingdom in the next chapter, which means the next Monday. So you read carefully, draw that cycles very neatly in your notebook, and also study that in Sunday. So we will get in touch with the new chapter on Monday. So thank you for listening. I will give you 2 to 3 minutes to read to the plant life cycle and alteration of generation, and after that we will sign off from this, and after we will get into the new class on Monday. Thank you for listening. Stay home, stay safe.